You got Bobby. Let's do some few things. I want to talk to you guys about the Epstein ordeal because we got a lot to cover on it, and I'm pretty knowledgeable in this area, so I'm gonna be a little bit more serious than I have in the past. What we're gonna do, we're gonna start where Epstein come from before he got there, so everybody can understand why it's not so much about the FBI and the DOJ, but about the intelligence community. So with that being said, I'm going to share some slides with you tonight with some flow charts. We can ask questions, go through it. If you got questions, I'll tell you all about it the best I can. My whole ordeal is I like to get everybody to get a little bit more curious and start digging into your past of the country because it really means a lot. So, with all that being said, everybody jump on, come on aboard, and we'll get fired up. All right, so guys, I want you to understand that we're going to go back, and this can even go back further. We can go back to the OSS days. But we got Nixon ends the gold standard August the 15th, 1971. It detaches the U.S. dollar from gold, triggers global monetary instability. Instability fuels reliance on oil because in 73, the oil crisis, you have OPEC oil embargo, oil prices quadruple, and inflation prices. You got this scrupulous, no good son of a bitch, Henry Kissinger. Um, if you know about him through the Vietnam War, he is just, I mean, he's the worst. William Simon, the Treasury Secretary, architect of the petrodollar, recycling pushes for Arab oil money into U.S. banks. All right, the King of Saudi Arabia demands U.S. military protection in exchange for oil dollar pricing, strategic pivot to U.S. 1974, the petrodollar deal, Saudi oil price and U.S. dollar. U.S. provides arms support to KSA, OPEC, follows Saudi lead. All right, this is how the cash flows. Reinvestment mechanism. Arab oil profits flow into U.S. treasuries, banks, and arms deals. The petrodollar recycling begins. U.S. dollar dominance reestablished. Global demand for U.S. dollar stabilized. U.S. dollar becomes de facto global reserve currency again. Foundation for covert financial flows. All right. So what this does is I want everybody to understand the how big of a deal this is. So we come off of the when we come off the gold standard, we had to have something to back the dollar again. All right. Well, this all is going to flow into the church committee and all these other things, and it will establish how we're going to get to Epstein. So we need to know a little of our past before we get to Epstein. If you haven't ever studied the Vietnamese War, I would say explore it because it's probably one of the most fascinating events in our history that's not talked about. That's when you run into basically people don't understand about the Vietnam War is the country was surrounded. I mean, we were battling communism because of the way that the Russians, mind you, this is still back when the Russian, the USSR, the Soviet Union, which people don't talk about because we were being attacked in Laos, Cambodia. These are supposed to be neutral countries. Um, anyway, the South Vietnamese ultimately ended up losing, and everybody wants to say it was a loss for us. Well, we had to do something to keep from spreading out to the Western world. During this time, these other things were going on as well with the Cuban Missile Crisis, communism. You have Che Guevara. All these things keep happening. These are all happening at one time. So I just want to give us all a general look around the country or around the world is a better way to put it. So I'm going to throw up another one for you. And I'm sorry if I don't see somebody's questions. I'll come back to them. Just bear with me, guys, a little bit. I'm not uh I'm not as smooth as everybody else is on this. So, if you can see this right here, I want to show you. You got the church committee from 1975 to 1976. What it is Frank Church investigates the CIA abuses, leads to new oversight laws. Okay? The CIA starts getting restricted. The ban on assassinations, covert operations have to go through Congress, and the agency becomes a risk averse. Covert ops vacuum. CIA can no longer operate freely in Africa, Middle East. Intel gaps emerged during the Cold War. Need for covert workaround. Henry Kissinger still needs influence in strategic zones, looks for the off-the-books partners. So they did a lot of this in Vietnam with Mac v. SOG. Groups of Green Berets that were working clandestine operations over the border, but if they were ever killed, caught, whatnot, they were disavowed basically. So this is where the collaboration begins. We have the proposes a multinational inter alliance from U.S. legal constraints, and this is where we get what is called as known as the Safari Club. So if you're the Safari Club, and the members of it were the France, the Saudis, Egypt, Morocco, Iran, mostly with their headquarters over in France. And what happens is this replaces the CIA functions. You have the full CIA role operations in Africa, the Middle East, and Asia, supports anti-communist regimes covertly. Funding comes from the BCCI. Safari Club channels oil money via Bank and Credit Commerce International, black ops financed off the record. Okay? The reason that is important, the reason that's all important is, hang on guys, I'm going to pull up so I can see here. What's up? Aaron Love, I'm gathering this for. Jason Holmes, dead on. Hey, the charts, the tier. Hey guys, I got to show it, man. You got to be able to see it. You know what I mean? Hell, I wouldn't be able to understand it if I didn't see it. So, Aaron, I don't send you nothing but knowledge, and you send me back ugly. You're ugly to me some days, and some days I just like, man, he don't like me. He don't like me. Anyway, so if we're going through here and you guys have questions, just stop me, throw them up on there, and I'll do my best I can to answer them. The whole point of this is I just want to get everybody curious and start looking a little bit more into the past. If you go to the past, you can see how we got to the future, which I'd like to bring up because everybody's been so focused on the Epstein ordeal that they didn't see what was passed last night and that went through Congress. It was literally the three biggest crypto bills with the battle of trying to make it tied to the central banks, which is what we want to get away from. We want to get away from the Fed. So this all happened last night, and nobody's talking about it. So this is a very, very big ordeal. But what I will do is today we will get through some of this and we'll get to Epstein, and you'll see he's just a pawn in the bigger scheme of things. All right, let's get up here. We'll pull up another one real fast for you guys, and I'll run it down. I'll have to So what it does, it's around 76. And you get the Safari Club. So here you got right here with the names of it. The Saudis is the GID, obviously. The oil, the money, that's the intel. The architect was the French. The Savak, the Shah's secret police in Iran. Egypt, you have the intel and support. Morocco is our logistics. The CIA, unofficial approval, obviously. But you see this from over here at the Saudis. Oil funds channeled to BCCI. Like, this is our slush fund. It's going to have UNITA in Angola, Somalia versus Ethiopia. You have a war going on there. The Zaire coup support and the Afghan Mujahideen, which, we know all about that. That was our claim to fame. We decided to, we actually upended a country by bringing in foreign fighters. When we bring in this foreign fighters, the problem with the United States we have is we don't look at down the road what it causes. So Afghanistan during the 70s had Jewish women had all the rights. You know, there was Buddhism there. There's Christianity there. There's different types of Muslims. That's where you get into the Wahhabi style. Well, they bring on all these foreign fighters from Jordan, you know, Egypt, Somalia, and all these things. And you know, once you train them and you arm them, the whole goal was them to fight the Russians and bankrupt them, and which we did. That literally that battle in Afghanistan with the Russians is what broke up the Soviet Union. Hey guys. Anyhow, that is literally was the operation for us. But what happens when you leave a group of guys in a country heavily armed? They're like, hell, we'll just take this son bitch over. And they bring their style of Wahhabism Muslim over there, you know, that's much different than what was there already. And then you get modern day Afghanistan. I don't care if anybody talking shit about me on here or not. I'm doing the best I can. I ain't got Aaron on here. I don't talk as good as he does. Guy ought to be a damn TV analyst. Jake fighting goats right now. Uh, Jay just fighting for his life. I didn't even get a note. Do-do-do-do. All right, guys. So we're gonna move along. I'm just gonna get it up here a little bit closer for y'all, so y'all can, you know, you won't be too far in the weeds. I'm gonna bring this one up. Shit, I wish I could play us some music, man. I get us thugging on here right now. All right, share screen. Hey, I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Like I said, I want to do the best I can for you. So, this is the BCCI. Now, mind you, this is where all of you know, with our money being backed by the oil now, and it's flowing through this bank. This is like the ultimate laundering operation. And I'm going to name off a couple names for you on here, so they're going to come into play later. You have Adnan Khashoggi, Saudi arms brokers, Safari Club financier, used BCCI for arms deals. Oliver North, Reagan NCS staff, ran Iran-Contra network, used BCCI covertly. It's crazy as hell. It might have just been a couple of months. I seen Oliver North on Fox News as a damn analyst, and I'm like, sadly, people don't know who he is unless you're older or if I can read a book. Kind of the same way Joe Biden got elected, because all of us that knew who he really was would never voted for him, but all the kids have no idea who really he was. So then you got Salim bin Laden and Khashoggi Family Network, private financing linked to BCCI. And a lot of times when you hear bin Laden, you think of Osama, but the bin Laden family was really tight with the royals of the Saudis. So literally the Saudis family name took over. It's never been Saudi Arabia. It was Arabia. Like, it's just Arabia. They made it their own. They just took it and put their own damn name on it. Made it Saudi Arabia. Kind of like we did with the Gulf of America. So BCI headquarters, Pakistan petrodollar laundering hub, links to CIA, the ISI, and the Saudis and the GID. ISI, man, if y'all don't know, them some scrupulous sons of bitches too. Over here you got drug and arms trafficking. BCCI laundered cartel money tied to the Mujahideen and Latin America ops. Mossad, MI6, CIA used BCCI for deniable ops, shared logistical funneling channels. You got strategic access. The Iran-Contra affair from 85 to 87. Illegal arms to Iran, funds diverted to Nicaragua. Contras used BCCI and the Khashoggi network. All right, so while that's important, so let's break up why that's important. Have y'all seen the movie American Made with Tom Cruise, where he's Barry Seal? That's basically when they were flying in, you know, loads of cocaine. Actually, the guy that's in charge of all that nowadays, Roger Reeves, he's out of prison. He's talking, actually, a pretty funny guy. So you got Barry Seal, which, you know, becoming an operative. This is how they're funding all their operations through drugs, and they can launder it back through the petrodollar. with, good old Governor Bill Clinton. I don't see shit. I don't see nothing. Um, Mason is just Bobby's just hosting a conspiracy live. Tell me when conspiracy come out. Hey man, it is what it is. Everybody can't be here today. I'm sorry, it's probably not going to be as entertaining as usual, and we can't argue. But I will give you guys some great information. I promise. So anyway, you got Bill Clinton, and you got that ordeal. So now you see the world stage, and the reason this was initially done was to prevent the spread of communism across the world, where they were getting more into Afghanistan, Africa, North Africa, and these areas. So you have to understand the era. You can also go back and look at there's an event called the Fourth Man. Um, the United States, especially the military, our comms have been compromised since 1967 to 1985. The Russians had our comms by a piece of shit named John Walker. He was a Navy admiral. He had been selling it all the entire time. The problem was is he actually had he had built up a spy ring, and his brother and uncle, or not his brother, his son and uncle were working along. When I first knew that we had our comms were being stolen, is I talked to many of these guys in Vietnam, especially these Saga guys that were infiltrating North Vietnam and whatnot, and they would say that they knew where they were at. They always, for some reason, knew where they were at. And at one time, these guys would come across the radios. So imagine being out there in the pitch black. They got no night vision back in these days, with a radio to your ear, and somebody comes across it. That's a North Vietnamese telling you your name, who's with you, and that they're going to kill you. So that's another big reason why we lost so many good men, is they were compromised from the jump by an American. American was selling all this all the way up until 85. If you look into the octopus motors with Robert Hansen and such. Uh-oh. Oh, boy, I got my homie down here. Hey, that's what I'm talking about. Hey, Jason tell you, they used to think I was crazy too, but then they had to rewrite a damn book off my work. So, I mean, shit, y'all want to get conspiracied up, baby? I mean, y'all want to do what y'all want to do? How deep y'all want to go, baby? I mean, I'm ready. You know, we go to the moon on this motherfucker. Anyway, so let's flow back. I'll flow back into some of this gut for you guys, man. I don't have to wear the tinfoil hat. I use that for another time. But I'm gonna pull y'all guys up another graph real fast, and then we'll start digging into where Epstein is. Aaron, what the fuck are you laughing about? You'd wear one too if I had one your size. All right, so I'm just gonna throw up my little side chart for you, so y'all can see how all this worked with the Colombian drug cartels. You know, you got the Nicaragua, the Contras, the U.S. backed rebels. That's them we're down there trying to fight off Noriega. You got to use the BCSI to launder billions, supply cocaine use. Also, if any of y'all from California, this is how we got the crack epidemic. 1980s U.S. inner cities flooded with cheap cocaine from the Contra connected routes. Mena, Arkansas, alleged drop point for. Man, Mena's about an hour from my house. I know all about it. You see old brother Bill down here, youngest ever governor, of Arkansas. During the peak Mena activity, he didn't see shit. Ain't see nothing. See nothing. You don't want to fuck with Bill Clinton. I'm just being for real. All right, so what we finna get into now a little bit is we finna start getting into to Epstein's part of this deal, because he's just another player, is all he is. Um, If y'all don't like the chart, y'all let me know. I'm sorry. I did the best I could. So we'll throw up here Epstein start. I just want to give everybody like a little bit of a background on how all this shit got rocking and rolling. By Air American Johnny, he ain't from Oakland. He ain't L.A. So I mean, at least he ain't on crack. All right. So this is just a swift overview of his ass, real fast. Parents: Seymour and Pauline Epstein, Brooklyn, Jewish class, Lafayette High School. Attended Cooper Union, NY Corinth Institute. Got no degree. Motherfucker didn't get no degree. You know, if he'd have had to pay them damn student loans like everybody else, his ass would have went to school. Drops out, but somehow he's hired at Dalton's as a school teacher, taught math and physics. But look who he's hired by: Donald Barr. Okay? That's actually a really interesting ordeal because that's Bill Barr's dad. Donald Barr was an OSS agent back in World War II. So that is an immediate tie right there. I've never been in the agency, so I do not know how they select their people. I have no idea whatsoever. That might be something we can get a guy on here, but back in the day, I'm going to tell you, man, it was grimy back in the day. OSS, early CIA, I mean, it's almost like a movie. Then obviously you have Bear Stearns down here where he gets like his first real job where he's getting around with wealthy clients. He starts as an assistant to a stock trader. He rose real quickly, but from my understanding, it's because he did a lot of insider trading. You know, it's always about them dollars, man. Always about the dollars. Do, do, do. So I'll just read it off for you. And there's a part about Barr I want to bring up. Um, he wrote a book, and I will tell you everybody to look at it. I think it's called Space Revelations. And what it's about is about a group that is taking over a government using sexual exploitations. When I almost pretty much mimics every fucking thing that Epstein does is in this book wrote by Donald Barr. So it's let me make sure I give you guys the right name real fast because I'm going to pull up. I'm actually going to read this myself. I've it's a really weird ordeal. You start reading these books, um, and they're creepy. They're hella creepy. It's like, why would you write this? Yeah, it's called Space Relations. When you get a chance, read about it. So it says right here, it's an interplanetary tale as a space opera novel by Donald Barr. All right, but when you start looking at the plot of it, it's humans have formed an intergalactic empire ruled by aristocrats during a time of war. An empire of anti-like alien bug people. Ambassador John Craig, a formerly liberal Earthman in his 30s. Da 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 da. So basically, the society as a place of exile for political extremists and now is ruled by an oligarchical high council of 7 nobles, each of which is in charge of a different domain with its own tradition. But then it starts getting into how it says, while en route to Kassar, one of the pirates awakened Craig and the other prisoners to rape a 15-year-old red-headed female captive in front of him. The rapist's fellow pirates later hear of this and dock his pay as punishment for spoiling her market value. Craig has then spent 2 years as a slave of the beautiful, sensual, and sadistic Lady Morgan Sidney, the only female member of the oligarchy with whom he became romantically involved with. Together they lived in her castle, ruling over and engaging in sexual relations with those under their dominion, including an enslaved teenager at a clinic used to breed enslaved people. When Craig stumbles on hints of an alien invasion, he realizes he must escape the humanity. So, who writes shit like that is my thing. It kind of, it's a really weird ordeal. I don't. It's kind of like, have you ever seen what best way to say is a serial killer, and it's almost like it's a game with them because they give you clues as if they want to be caught. They want to see how far they can go with it. Mind you, his son, who was a CIA analyst later, Bill Barr, and Attorney General, during the first Trump administration, I believe that, which he's cocky and confident, whatnot. And I think Washington absolutely ate his ass up because he's got everybody telling him who this person is and who this person is and who this person is. But it's a shadowy world. It's a very, very shadowy world. So I don't blame him so much. People don't understand that he can't, and he doesn't have time to vet every single person. He's got to have a team around him that's going to do these things with him. Okay? So I'm going to bring us up another screen here real fast. Let's see, share screen. Okay. Entire screen. So we're going to start getting into some of this other here. We got in 81, you got leaves Bear Stearns amid insider trading rumors, no charges filed. Meets Ghislaine Maxwell, daughter of Robert Maxwell, Mossad-linked media mogul, Epstein's partner and recruiter. Adnan Khashoggi, Saudi arms dealer, introduced to Epstein high-level finance networks and offshore banking, introduced him to the offshore game. So Khashoggi, if you go and look at Khashoggi's life, Epstein mimics it. It's been said that he basically was his mentor. And, this is where you get where he forms J. Epstein and Company in 1982 with offshore wealth management firm. Clients required $1 billion plus to fuck with him. And there's the financial blueprint from Khashoggi's time working for the Safari Club at the time. Epstein used Caribbean trust, shell companies, and tax havens linked to intelligence-related finance. Shell pathways go to ultra-wealthy clients, including royalty. What's his damn name over there? Hell, his ass ain't left the island in forever and a day. Prince Andrew, is that it? Politicians, intelligence-linked billionaires. No public client list has ever been confirmed. And the reason it's never been confirmed and all these things weren't done is we live in an age of information now. So I put that in perspective. 20-something years down the road, I have to hear all the time how we shouldn't have invaded Afghanistan. We shouldn't have invaded Iraq. Okay? And you go back 23 years. No, internet's hardly shit. There's not phones. We're not connected. We don't know any of these things. We don't know that the CIA had been already there before. How can you condemn people that have no? You want to go 20 years and act like you're fucking smarter than the rest of us? No, we did what we did because we were patriots. We grew up on patriotism. We thank you, Aaron, Prince Andrew, that slimy bastard. And with all that being said, when was the last time George Bush left the country? Just want to say, George Bush ain't left no country in a long time. People want to go and call these names or whatnot. Well, you got to understand that the propaganda, and this goes all the way back to Operation Mockingbird, where they had journalists that were 50 known journalists that would go and put out disinformation. And this is from the 60s. You have MK Ultra, all these programs. That is why they had a leash put on them. And if you don't think they won't do that, you're crazy. We always talk about Germany and the Nazis or whatever. Well, guess where all their scientists went? We wasn't going to let the Russians have them, so I'll come here. People say Nazi this, Nazi that. Head of NASA was fucking Nazi. Okay? You say Nazi, all that is a political party that's a nationalist. That's what that means, nationalist. German's a rough language. So when Skull and Bones, that's a good point. Skull and Bones, Inside Club over at Yale, good movie about it, I think. So the propaganda was always put out, and all of us growing up with German being a rough language, and I don't want to get into who did what, who did not. Okay, the problem with it is, sorry guys, the problem with it is we weren't given a good enough information. We grew up on SF and CIA had Taliban surrender and President Karzai in position by 1201 Fifth Group did their thing, but the military industrial complex has different ideas. Okay, Frank, I'm going to touch on what Frank's saying right there. So we'll go a little bit further behind that, Frank. You've got Karzai. Why was Karzai picked as the first president? Karzai lived in the United States. He was a oil consultant in Afghanistan for a company called Unical. If y'all don't remember, Unical had the big orange ball, the Phillips 76. Okay, they had a house across the street from Bin Laden in Kandahar. All right. Well, they just settled up with a massive court deal. They had a court where they got sued by a company called Brightest Corporation, which is now BP. Um, the other guy that was part of the Unical oil consultancy in the 90s was Zalmay Khalilzad. He was our ambassador. He's the one that did the Doha agreements, and then he became the Iraqi ambassador. Who knew? Him and Karzai were great friends, lived in the United States together. Um, George Bush absolutely did have fucking Haran be killed, and I think it's a problem. Don't get me going down that path. I'll teach you too much about the whole Afghanistan deal, because that's got to do with Dick Cheney and them finding $13 trillion worth of gas and oil in the Caspian Sea, which they were going to pipeline down. You can look it up. It's called the TAPI pipeline, TAPI pipeline. Right now, they're having their way through Afghanistan with it. Another reason why we made friends with India, it was supposed to stop in India, which China wants to hub off of. So we made fucking China a friend. I mean, we made India a friend. Fuck China. It's all about keeping China and Russia in check. That's our whole ordeal. We have been infiltrated. We've been infiltrated for a long time. Um, a lot of people pick up the thoughts of their parents or what they're taught, and that's just what it is. So I don't want to get going down that rabbit hole with Afghanistan. It's not really a rabbit hole. I can prove every damn bit of it. Fuck it, I'm gonna say it. We could have killed Bin Laden a long time ago, but he was just a face. I mean, they had him hidden over in Iran when Delta Force had him pinned down inside of Tora Bora, which he should have never even done anyway, because George Bush gave them 48 hours. They gave Mullah Omar and the Taliban 48 hours to hand him over. They were agreeing to it. They just did not want to do it in the country. Okay? So at hour 40, we attacked. We didn't give him the 48 hours. He said, I wanted to hand him over. What we did is we instilled a government that would do what the hell we said. And that's what we always do. I want to say the CIA has been involved in 115 different elections, and we have succeeded on 90 of them so far. And probably one of our own here, at least recently. Frank, there it is right there. Caspian Sea was a big picture. It was the big picture. And it still is. And that's why we're still battling over the middle corridor in Ukraine. Ukraine has shit to do with the United States. People don't get that either. It has to do with resources, people. Resources. Resources and the fucking shipping lanes, trade routes, etc. I don't want to get too far off kilter here because y'all think I'm a maniac. There it is right there. Ukraine also has connections to oil that's coming from and across. Absolutely. That's why Iran was such a big ordeal for us. Iran sells all of its oil and gas to China, and they sell it to them in the yuan. So, or yen, whatever the fuck that shit is they got. And China has become so massive that they have to import nearly 70% of their energy. So when you cut off that right there, it you just knocked out a quarter of their fucking energy. They have to replace that somehow, and there's no way for them to grow. Giovanni, you say minerals. There are minerals in Afghanistan, 100%. I want to say the seventh largest copper mine in the world. It's one of the only unmined areas left in the world. 2 days after we left, I told everybody, I said the Chinese will move in. 2 days after we left, the Chinese did fly in, 100%. Um, Everybody talking about Obama promised to end, but instead sent 100. Let me tell you about Obama. Obama was the biggest hindrance that the U.S. fucking military ever had. A man could shoot at you and throw his rifle down, and you go to prison if you killed him. Luckily, I got to go during the motherfucking Wild West, which meant if it's brown, it's down. Um, we didn't have that oversight. British said they had backside of Tora Bora. Fifth group guys were furthest OP and requesting to go were denied. Delta had some obstacles. Well, not only just that, Frank, we also had the 101st, and we had, Mattis over there, which I'm not a fan of. Mattis sitting over there with his, special missions unit. Got denied. Tried to drop landmines through the pass. That was denied. You have, Tom Greer, Dalton Fury, whatever you want to call him, was going to drop Delta in from a halo up on top of the peaks and come down. That was denied. This is all coming from Donald Rumsfeld, which if y'all go to digging into some Rumsfeld background, you'll know. All the while, Henry Kissinger, piece of shit, is an oil consultant at the time for China. Dick Cheney, Dick Cheney was the Secretary of State or Secretary of Defense under O.G. Bush. Herbert Walker Bush, who was the CIA director back in the Gap. That's who ran the damn war. I mean, Cheney literally has shot a motherfucker in the face and didn't go to jail. They're just like, man, it was an accident. I'm like, okay, I want to know when I'm going to get my accident so I can use mine up, get my mulligan. I don't know about Big Mike. I'm going to get, hey, boy, I wouldn't talk bad about Aaron. He's got like literally the hardest pipeline of anybody. Like I probably have met like 3 Air Force PJs in my life. They don't get the respect they deserve. None of the Air Force Special Forces do. They go through the business, for real. There's no bebopping through that ordeal. So before I get too off kilter, we'll jump back up here and I'll get back on our topic of the day. We got more coming. Here we go. We got Oliver North ran clandestine conscious support program, used front companies to covert logistics. You got the asset pipeline. The CIA was direct management over the Iran-Contra covert arms for drugs funding, which we've all talked about this. But I want to bring this up over here. This over here to the side is important. There's a group called the Finders. All right? It's a cult-like group exposed in 1987 linked to child trafficking allegations, DC bank connections, base connections to intel contractors, and DOJ report was sealed up on it. I would heavily have y'all go and look into who the Finders were. Okay, that's when you're starting to get into satanic rituals. And it was ran by 2 U.S. Air Force. One was an intel operations. But when it went to court, they have the children, they actually have the photographs, they have everything they need. And it was shut down completely because it said it was a CIA internal operation. Okay? That one's kind of creepy. So I would say everybody, I would have you go do a little bit of your own looking involved in that deal. I'll just kind of give you a little bit of a deal right here because it's over the proxy war. Formed in '76, with the CIA on the sidelines post Watergate, this club filled the vacuum, operated through the BCCI, Africa, warlords and child soldiers in Zaire. I can't say some of this damn name. Supported the Safari Club, was known for human rights violations and the use of child soldiers in Angola. UNITA rebels received support from South Africa, and the Safari Club were implicated in forced recruitment in Sudan. Even in the 1980s, slave routes persisted, often tied to Gulf buyers. Then you have Lebanon militias during the Civil War were involved in child trafficking, blackmail, while Mossad and the Saudis ran parallel influence operations. Saudi Arabia itself was a key hub for labor and sex trafficking into the Gulf, protected by the regime intelligence. Iran Savat, brutal and untouchable, exported its tactics into Africa and beyond. Asia and Thailand, a booming sex tourism. Man, everybody I know done went down there and got it with some of them Thai boys. Protected in part of the intelligence liaisons, became a pipeline for trafficking children to the Gulf, the U.S., and Europe. In Afghanistan, the Mujahideen, armed by the Safari Club and the CIA-ISI alliance, which is Pakistan, used children in courier and smuggling operations, another layer of exploitation behind the anti-Soviet facade. Europe, colonial ties and quiet complicity in Morocco under the King Hassan. Child sex tourism flourished. It was tolerated by the monarchy and used in influence operations. France's Foreign Legion and intelligence services continued to partner with African warlords long after colonialism officially ended, trafficking included. The Finders Cult was exposed in '87. The U.S. was linked to trafficking, mind control practices, if y'all don't remember MK Ultra, and high-level protection. Evidence was suppressed by the DOJ. In Latin America, CIA-backed regimes and cartels used the same trafficking routes as the Iran-Contra operations. MENA, Arkansas became a key logistics node. Air routes used to move weapons and people with cover from local and federal officials. So this is global. The Safari Club didn't run the trafficking directly. They didn't need to. The reach gave them the access to the regime's routes, protections, the traffickers. When you remove oversight, inject intelligence service, and wrap it up in a black budget and offshore banking, trafficking isn't a bug, it's a feature. So I want everybody to understand the scale of all of this. You know, that's the problem is the scale, and everybody wants to believe that, they want to say Epstein, Mossad. Yeah, he probably did work for him, and he probably worked for a lot of other intel agencies as well. Do I know the end game? Absolutely not. We do know that they're probably using him for leveraging on what all he is. They'll find another person to take his place. That's all it is. Do we want accountability? 1,000%. But we have to understand where all this shit started and where we're going with it and why it's where it's at now. When you see something happening, I'll give a good instance. Things will sound so out of so wild that you're just like, there's no way that could ever happen. We didn't live through it through the 60s, 70s, 80s. Well, we lived through the 80s, but fuck, man, we didn't have no TV. I mean, we watched Hulk Hogan on fucking Monday night, but that was about as far as it went. We have to understand that people can be corrupted with money and power, and then they want to build a world in their image that they feel. I mean, you ever wonder why all the other presidents leave? And for some reason, Obama and Hillary and Bill and them cannot get the hell away. Does everybody remember John McAfee from McAfee Antivirus? John was, he became a wild man. Who has to go on the run for taxes? When he created McAfee Antivirus, and the Pentagon agreed to use it, all right, which he warned everybody, when Bill Gates come out and all this stuff with the internet, and he's like, you'll start having bugs, and everybody laughed at him. Well, they created viruses. Well, He sent computers to the Pentagon loaded with spyware. Okay, he took control of the Pentagon for 2 months before they ever figured out that he was involved in it. And what he did is he wanted to know that whether or not they had anything to do with the raid upon his place down in Belize. And he says they didn't. He's like, no, I didn't ever find that. But he said, but what I did find, and he says this openly, is the Minister of Immigration is the largest human trafficker in the world. And you can go watch all these videos. He has them up. Sadly, they say John killed himself in Spain. They had him in prison over there. But look at all the other people involved as well. You have, Edward Snowden. He had to escape to Russia. He ever stepped foot out of that son of a bitch, he's dead. I can't believe he's made it this long. WikiLeaks. When they started releasing things like Vault 7 and started showing the different, what was that, 2017, you have the WikiLeaks ordeal. And everybody was so worried about the Clinton emails that they didn't go and look at what the CIA stuff he put in there, with Vault 7 and the different types of intelligence that we have and computer programs where they can hack into your cars. Anything that has an internet capable, they can go into. And this is all factual. You can go look this up. Your computer screens. Like I said, anything that has internet capable, Bluetooth capable, they can take over. So, these things are real, no matter what you think. It's just like everybody's just now starting to figure out that, hey, they're talking about UFOs and da-da-da-da-da. Well, now it's coming out, oh, well, that might be American aircraft. Well, it's always been American aircraft. So I'm going to bring up some more for you guys real fast. Another Basically, that just shows what we've already talked about. Okay, here we go. And this is kind of like an overview so you can kind of see it. It talks about the public distrust in the CIA scandals because this is coming right out of Vietnam, which, man, they did some bad shit there. I would tell everybody, if you can, look into the Church and Pike committees. CIA exposed, they're neutered by Congress. Hughes-Ryan Act of 74, covert operations now need congressional approval. Soviet expansion, the 70s and 80s. That's the Cold War era, guys. Africa, Middle East, Central Asia, Angola, Ethiopia, Afghanistan, and Yemen. The CIA is blocked from action to too much oversight, too many leaks. And that's where we get down into our club down here. We got our gang of folks. So we can get deeper into it. I didn't want to run this too long. Names, faces, people, and places. Yeah, I can do that for you. That's not a problem. Tell what them dogs were dangerous. Man, them dogs can bit the shit out of me. I got a Dogo Argentino. That's so much. I don't know what to do with that guy, man. He's pretty much a terrorist on his own. So last night, while everybody was, arguing about this, y'all ought to go look into the 3 crypto bills that have been passed last night, and the battle over it to have it centralized by the federal banks. So what happens if we move from the dollar to all crypto and it's controlled by the government? If you do that, they have full control. They turn off your money. People say, oh, they have control now. No, you can still do some things with cash. I'm going to get on a fucking barter system. I'm just going to tell you. But they can also destroy your wealth. And the reason I say that is we can go back into the time to when they made gold illegal. You couldn't own gold. What they did is they took your gold. There's like, hey, we're going to give you these fucking pieces of paper. Because before that, we always ran on coins. They said, here, I'm going to give you these pieces of paper. You're going to turn in your gold. Okay? If you don't do it, it's illegal. We'll just come take it from you. What they did when they did that, they said, okay, we'll say gold's worth $30 an ounce. Here's your money. Well, once they got everybody's gold, they said, you know what, gold's worth $60 an ounce instead of 30. So right then they stole half the damn wealth out of the country. Okay, Andrew Jackson was the last one to ever get us off of the central banks, and that's something that has got to happen. I don't know how we'll do it in our lifetime, but the fiat currency has never worked. The keys I was always told is to look when you start seeing all of your wealthy taking all of their liquid and buying things up with land, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That way, once the money is changed over, they still have wealth. They won't lose any of their money. Um, all the countries we invade, go look at their currency from back then. Iraq, man, you couldn't fill this motherfucking house up with dinars and go buy a fucking sandwich. Germany, Africa, just you might as well use that shit for firewood. Anyway, I don't want to dig too deep yet, and I can go deeper with the Epstein guys as we go. Maybe down the road they'll let me do a little bit more. I prefer to have Aaron's loving face on here, Jay laughing at me, and Jake saying fucked up shit so I don't feel so bad. Uh, any questions? Frank the Tank, what you got going on? Anybody got any questions in here for me? We can talk about it all. I don't give a damn. Man, see, got 8 ounces of gold. Man, you sitting on some ends right now. 32 grams makes a troy ounce. That's over $3,000 an ounce, and it will not go down. All your people that involved with silver, whatnot, it's going to be the same. Me personally, is Fort Knox empty? Man, I don't know. They won't let me close to that motherfucker. Yeah. Um, there's a lot of things going on in the shadows, and the reason I bring up these agencies and these events from the past, like Operation Mockingbird, um, I see the Epstein like is the link to one ring to dominate them all. Not really. You know, he gets involved with, I call the mega group of Zionists. You got Wexer. What would make a billionaire in good health, there's nothing wrong with Wexer, sign over all his shit, power of attorney, to Jeffrey Epstein? Why would he do that? You know, it's because they have been leveraged. Um, and that's what the whole thing is with sex exploitation with kids, is they get these people that can't control themselves. Um, I mean, you see presidents question things, guys. Question them, and you literally have a computer in your hand. It's not gonna take you to the answers unless you dig. And all old documents are not true. So just because something's old doesn't mean it's worth something, for starters, and second, doesn't mean it's true. Um, I'll give you an example about that. The it's through the Library of Congress. When I go to Vietnam and Cambodia, these areas, to look for men that have been left, that our government said doesn't exist, but they do. Find them all the time. Um, the problem is with that is a lot of people go to the Library of Congress and they pull up these MIAs and they have coordinates and whatnot over. Well, the men from MACV-SOG were not supposed to be in these countries, so they cannot put on there that that's where they were killed at. And nobody can understand that because it's wrote down as factual, and we believe the Library of Congress would be a factual organization. That's why, if you've been looking, Trump has been firing our archivists. He's been firing a lot of these people that have to do with our history, because they can literally make or break history. Um, Jake said it the best. Since 1995, we know for sure we've been recording everything in the country or world as far as conversations go It took a 9/11 event for people to be scared enough to allow the government to have even more control of the Patriot Act. I implore everybody to read and understand and don't get caught up in these social media ordeals and these scandals and these guys that act like they're smarter than you or this or that, and they spread misinformation and they use it with knee-jerk reactions. Um, they always attack religion. They attack sexuality. They attack race, religion, all the things that will get a knee-jerk reaction from people. And that goes all the way back to, like I said, Operation Mockingbird, where they had over 50 well-known journalists that would write disinformation. Okay? You got to question things. And don't say we have a bad problem with saying this guy's stupid or that guy's stupid. Well, you know what? A lot of people have got their minds made up of what something is going to be. And understand that 40% of your population does not have an inner dialogue that talks to them. So, you know, it's that's my man right there, White Devils, 2504, baby. Better talk to him. So, I want to give you a couple of things to question today that's going on. They're bringing up the $2 trillion that came up missing right before the Trade Center came down. Nobody ever talks about that. It actually is talked about, but there's more to that as well. Go and try to find war records just from the Afghan and the Iraq invasion. Go find some of those records of some of those battles that's not talked about. I'll give you one, the Battle of Samoa. It was the 82nd Airborne's largest ground battle since World War II, and there's no records of it. Very minimal. It's just interviews. There's no actual physical records of it. David Petraeus is what his fucking name ought to be. Petraeus was caught sanitizing records from the Iraq War. They don't want y'all to see what really went on over there, and it really hurts to see Americans say that we lost and we're getting our asses kicked and this and that. That didn't happen. Also, put in perspective, we had peacetime generals. All these guys walking around with these medals on their chests, like Milley and some of these others, they've never seen a day of combat. There was no wars. You had the 24-hour war in fucking Desert Storm, Desert Shield. So, put things in perspective sometimes when you down on these guys. We don't get if it looks bad, it's probably bad. I'm going to go ahead and say it out loud. The bin Laden raid was a facade. He was inside a jail. He was on home arrest. They built that up, put that there, moved him there from Iran. He was a sacrificial lamb for basically a re-election. Obama was losing that year. So they killed the man. You got the number one wanted man in the world, you're telling me, that has no guards. Literally, I think he had one, and it was his son. The other two were people that lived there. He has no escape route. He has no bombs. He has nothing. Why? Number one guy in the world. Why would you go there? He was just a face. Literally, that was all he was a face. And that was his double already. I believe he'd been dead for quite a while now. He'd been on dialysis even back in the Gap. You can take pictures or whatnot. I would implore everybody to look up a Newsweek article called A 60,000 Man Army. And it will talk about some of the technology that we have with the masks, the gloves we can use with other people's fingerprints on them. They even look real. It looks like a fucking hand. It just slides over yours. The media is not your friend. I was so glad when podcasts and stuff come out. And you know what? We're all still learning. We'll all never learn everything, but we do the best we can. Lloyd Austin didn't see shit for actions. Let me tell you about Lloyd Austin. Lloyd Austin had his AIDS write his damn Silver Star Award for Iraq. And I ain't never seen a general step foot on no fucking battleground until that son of a bitch was completely cleared. Everybody else under the sun, they've got an entourage of people out there. But if you read it, it makes it sound like Lloyd Austin was the goddamn tip of the spear. By the time everybody else caught up, Lloyd had done killed 75 men and had 37 tied up. You know, we called him the Jackal. Horseshit. I'm talking about when the Bushes had dinner with Bin Laden's family and then they take him out. That did absolutely happen. So the Bushes and the Bin Laden family, which that's one of the more wealthier people inside the Saudis. They have a construction company that build all the airports, everything. But I mean, they got like 17 fucking kids. He did get them out of the country, 100%. You're all right. They were the only ones allowed to leave the country because we would have strung their asses up. OBL was hanging out with Khashoggi. So you're talking about Jamal Khashoggi. Also, that's another one. You got Jamal Khashoggi, which we've been always told by the media that he was a journalist. He was never a journalist. Jamal Khashoggi was involved. Jamal Khashoggi was involved with the Mujahideen. He was a great friend of fucking Bin Laden. So I got photographs of him, toting RPGs, hanging out with him and whatnot. He was actually a Saudi intel officer and Turkish. When they say he was chopped up at the Turkish consulate, and they say that was his girlfriend outside. Go look at the picture of who he had just got married to a month or so prior, and who they're trying to say was his fiance. That was a fucking man. All right, and I ain't figured that shit out yet. Barbara Bush, that's a man. All right, Big Mike Obama, that's a man. Chuck Schumer's wife, that's a man. Macron, that's a man. I don't understand if they got to go through like some weird shit or something to be part of the team, but all these weird ordeals keep happening with men. Like, this is weird as hell with this men thing. Yes, all of that has something to do with it. And everybody's talking about Trump and Israel. I'm going to just tell you, I haven't made up my mind on that deal yet. I do know he is influenced by his son-in-law. If you don't know who Jared Kushner is, and his ties with the Saudis. It's I wish we knew more. I mean, all you can do really, I would give everybody advice, is protect your community. We can't, as individuals, can't do anything to change the world, like in that aspect. But you can change your world that you live in. Start with your family, your neighbors, your community. Have water. Have anything like that. If you have any must-read books. I would say that read that one about Bill Barr, but I will say The Monster from Jekyll Island. Read that. That's about the Federal Reserve, actually. That's really, really, really good. A book on communism that's small. It's called The Law. A book about Afghanistan. It's called The Bear Over the Mountain. So there's a lot of good books out there you can read. And if you know any older people, that have lived through the 60s, 70s, if you'll ask them about these events, they'll actually start learning. They'll actually tell you because it'll freshen their memory. Every week I spend 7-8 hours talking to some guys that were either in MACV-SOG, they worked for the CIA. They couldn't understand why the hell they were all being killed. Helicopter pilots. And if you ask them certain questions, they'll start understanding. Like they'll fill you in because they lived it, and it makes a lot of sense because we don't use newspapers anymore. I'm not so happy with the internet being the only sense of repository of information because we know they can change it. How many times have there been something you knew was different and you go back and look at it and it says something different? You'd never know. It's kind of like Wikipedia. Wikipedia is not the gospel, people. Wikipedia can be changed by anybody, but it is always the first thing on the Google browser or whatever you use as a way, and people go and read it. Me, you, anybody else can log in, actually go in there and change the information as long as we give a source. So we gotta get curious, guys. We gotta get curious. If there's any more questions, I'm down. Let's see, people could start taking matters into their own hands. People could start taking matters in their own hands, but people aren't. Because the news will come out with some nonsense and tell you something different, and people have to align. People are so tribal nowadays. They're like, I'm Republican, I'm conservative. And I'm like, I ain't shit. I'm just right and wrong. Um, don't let people sway you with their ideas. Formulate your own. Just because somebody doesn't like a person, don't mean you got to hate them. Shit. I'll say it. There's every now and again there's some Democrats that say some shit, and I'm like, hell, that's all right. I agree with it. They're not all that way. You got to understand. There's 550 members of Congress. Why do we only see about the same 15 over and over and over and over and over? Where are the others at? Why can't we listen to them? We got to listen to the same assholes every week. Like there's some. I wish TV would go back to the 6 o'clock news. The fucking president come on the damn TV twice a year, and he was on every channel. I don't give a damn. Carmen San Diego was on. That shit was going off. The president was coming on. And we can get back to actually working on our crafts and this and that. You got all these fake ass journalists nowadays. A real journalist back in the day that motherfucker would be climbing fences and shit, breaking in buildings. The ones we have nowadays, they sit in, they read a script, wait on everybody else to come out with something, then they inject their opinion. While I screenshot stuff, I notice stuff changes myself. It absolutely does. I do it all the time. It's helped me a million times. Jasmine says go to the local library. Well, so Jasmine, when you go back so far, they only started is if I'll urge everybody, I'll give you all this right here. If you get a chance, go read on an event from an actual newspaper from that era, and not a fucking internet ordeal. The actual print of the newspaper. If you can pull it up through the repository or whatever, or the Internet Archives, which, if y'all don't know, the Internet Archives were attacked cyberly last year. Like, they tried to destroy the Internet Archives. And you will find more and more information and names that will blow your mind by these real journalists. Here that I studied years ago that proved the anthrax vaccine caused autoimmune disorders. Disappeared from the CDC website. You bring that up, and I'll just tell you, with my generation, the GWAT original guys, we took anthrax. We walked around with what the hell was the name of those pens? We had these pens we kept in our pocket. Basically, if we were in a chemical attack, that's why we didn't wear a mask, and all these other units did, but the truth was you were going to die anyway. This thing they were made as atropine, it was going to speed up our hearts. You have depleted uranium, you have melphaquin, that now they say gives us permanent brain damage. We didn't know any better, we didn't know any different. We were doing what we thought was right at the time. I got all my news during soft rep prime days. Jack Ranger went on foot in Syria just to get real information that the media wasn't telling us. The Art of War, Shinzu says it all. And everything runs in cycles. Stock market collapse. All the events that we think are new today, they're just on repeat. I want to say was it Lyndon Johnson? I can't remember, but one of them said when the TV come out, he's like, I'll rule the world with this thing. I'm not gonna keep going down the same path, but if y'all have any questions, I'd love to. I don't mind answering, guys. I'm gonna put on my tinfoil hat today. I ain't gonna act a fool. When Trump supposedly going to come out with the JFK files, I thought that's where we were going to go. That's kind of where things kind of started with the CIA and the agencies and all that things. I really thought that's where they were doing that to lead us up to today. When he's saying that a lot of things were fake and this and that, more than likely they were. Yeah, I say question everything. It's kind of like TSA. Let's talk about that for a second. We got the TSA. I remember a time when you could walk your ass to the gate, when you could walk your ass to a gate with your loved one, hug them, smoke a cigarette, do whatever you're gonna do, and go on. And we did that forever and a day. Okay. We know for a fact that during Vietnam, they had remote control planes in Vietnam that they were flying over North Vietnam to shoot down while the bombers come across. Okay, we had drones back then. So um, you're never going to convince me that somebody was talking on a fucking phone in that damn plane unless you had a credit card back in the day. Could have hit that fucking phone because no cell phones were going to work. Secondly, the audio inside the cabs of every one of those planes, there's not a single word recorded by a terrorist or hijacker. How the hell is that possible? Got everybody else's but them with a fucking sign language in? Motherfucking. You know? We know the buildings were burned down. There's nothing we can do to change that. It sucks. You can believe what you want to believe. Don't argue. Um, if you believe the government has your best interest in control and you know what the business is, how many of you can pick up a telephone and call one of your state representatives and speak to them? You see them on TV all the time talking about, whistleblowing and this and that. Somebody tell me who has been able to ever reach them or has got a call back from their state representative or senator. Has anybody ever been able to? I implore you to give it a try. Give it a try. Just give it a shot. You'll never hear back from them because they've become a group of rulers and not servants. It's kind of like presidents. How many presidents have been fucking, when we decided our presidents needed to be lawyers? Who in this group has ever heard anybody say something good about a lawyer? It's like, man, that fucking lawyer is awesome. Let's see here what Cube's saying. Cube, you saying Epstein by proximity was placed next to the JFK. MLK files, can they cover up? Damn right they can. 100%. Anyway, let's see, war affects 3 generations. Absolutely. Um, I'll give you another piece of that. Maxwell helped write the books for school. Y'all don't remember Maxwell books? Like if you looked at the maker of them, Robert Maxwell. School was implicated and designed to follow a workday, an 8-hour workday. You stand in line, you do your work, go home. I hear people all the time saying that they look at these old artifacts and stuff and they're like, how could they ever make that back then? And I'll just give it an example. I have Indian pottery. The reason why they were so good at it, it's because it's what they did all day long. That was their craft. Which a lot of us are good at things, but how much time do we really get to spend on what we are good at? How much more time did we have when we had imagination and we read books and we weren't involved digitally with things? Which, it has to come to an end somewhere. And we're progressing. But the reason I'm seeing a big problem in the United States also is we're not having the families we used to have anymore. We've gotten rid of, what do you call it? Back in the day, you had natural selection. Maybe you're the dumbass. You got ran over by a fucking car, or even go back further than that, a goddamn tiger would eat you. You didn't fucking pet the tiger. So nowadays we just wrap them in pillows, keep them alive, and they reproduce, and we got fucking more morons. Every damn town you ever been to's got a village idiot, but you didn't. You knew he was a fucking idiot. You didn't listen to shit he said. And then social media come out, and then all the goddamn idiots had somewhere to talk, and people started listening to them. It's like, Jesus fucking Christ, man. Anyway, I'm not going to keep rambling on, guys. If there's any more questions, y'all throw them up there. I'll do my best I can to answer them. Aaron's already sent me a message. Says, I hope you die. Okay. No, I'm joking. Aaron's good peoples. And guys, like I said, I'll go to the second half of this. You know, sometime whenever we have some time, maybe midweek, they might let me come on and do it, and I'll break it down and get you in, guys, a little bit deeper. Um, I want to tell you about some things that I do on my own that's coming up. You know, I am part of a nonprofit organization, and I have went back to them. It's called Tours of Duty. What we do is we go over to Vietnam, Southeast Asia, and we bring back our missing men that the government seem to can't figure out how to do. Um, it's all a big grift. They steal the money. They pay the Vietnamese. They work the money down through NGOs. Nobody ever talks about it. You know, so we're going to do it ourselves. We've been doing it. We've been very successful. We're never going to get the clout that we deserve because we have to turn everything over to the government once we find them. Um, we do have a page. It's toursofduty.org. You know, everybody has day jobs. It's not a bunch of us. You know, there's about 10 of us, former soldiers, contractors. And man, I know everybody doesn't want to see things privatized, but privatized always does better. Um, that's why they have Palantir and Meta and all these things being put into the DoD to close the gap. You know, if you could start bringing some more people over here, grow the war room, man, we can get the messages out. Everybody's got a great message. They got a great roundup of people that want to come on this show, so we can start giving out better information. And with that said, that's about the end of my night, guys. If you like it, leave a comment on the page actually so everybody else can see it. If you want to do the second part of it, let me know. I'll link you in to the intel agencies, tell you where this is going to go, show you the rest of Epstein's way to where he got where he was going to go, where he fucked up at. Why that damn flight list does not matter. Do not look at them damn stupid ass lists. They do not matter. 99% of the people that were going to go down there would show up on a boat or submarine because he owns two islands. Both of them have submarine access and docks to them. Ghislaine Maxwell was fucking submarine qualified. She had a fucking thing for submarines. All those areas through there are trade routes, have always been trade routes for smuggling all the way back to fucking Blackbeard. All right, so with that, I guess I'm fucking signing off, guys.